a very warm welcome to this special as we celebrate women who've broken the proverbial glass ceiling. These are women who've dared to go and excel in fields which have traditionally been male bastions. So Aishwarya Pissay joins me today. She is a motorcycle champion. She is the only Indian to have won an international title in motorsports. She's a star. Thank you so much, Aishwarya Pissay, for taking the time out to talk to us. And you've just returned from your training in France. How did that go?
Hi, Meha. Thank you for having me here today. My training in France was really great. I think it was a great start to my year to be able to start really early this year. And it's been great. And I'm really looking forward to being able to go back and train more.
Now, I would think that when I spoke to you last, Aishwarya, you had won that World Cup. Baja World Cup, and we'd spoken about what it took. You'd recovered from ruptured pancreas. I remember that was a big phase for you, where you were really in that rehabilitation time, and then from there to now have come here. Tell me, how far have you come since then, and what has that journey been for you?
I believe it's been definitely a lot of learning, a lot of falling, a lot of getting up. And yes, I mean, all these mistakes that have happened along the way have just been a stepping stone for me to learn from them and to be able to do what is needed and probably not make the same mistakes. So there were a lot of learning for me physically, mentally, skill-wise, being able to organize better, plan better, be able to train better. So that was being able to do all of them right was how we were able to win the World Cup in 2019. And yes, I did have another accident early last year at the Baja World Cup in the second round. It took about 3 months for me to recover, after which I went back to racing and winning my 8th national title last year, as well as I'm still 100%, but I think what being an athlete or being in motorsports has taught me is to be able to tackle not just the challenges on track or when I'm racing, but it's being an athlete is not just on track, but it's also off track. It's helped me deal with any challenges or obstacles that come my way with the same spirit that I do when I fall on a bike, pick it up and go back to race again. So yeah, it's been a lot of learning.
I am going to talk about that. I'm going to ask you about how do you get the courage to keep doing it. But first, let's talk about the journey itself, Aishwarya. How did it begin for you? How did you take to motor racing?
Well, I started racing motorcycles, or rather, motorcycles came into my life when I was 18, when I got my license. So I started very late in my life, especially in the motorsports arena, compared to my international peers that I race against. It started as a hobby because I failed in my 12th and I had a year to study. I used that year to, start working, also ride motorcycles over weekends with my girlfriends. And that's pretty much how it all began. And 2019 is when I ventured into racing because I had a bug for speed and my peers suggested that I should try racing. And that's how I started training with Apex Racing Academy. That was... they were specializing in road racing, so that's where I started my career. And in 2016 is when I started doing both off-road and on-road. And people even then told me that I should probably just stick to one style of motorsports because they hadn't seen anybody do two styles of racing. But for me, every time somebody said that I can't do it, it was more about what I knew I could do and the amount of training that I was putting in. And 2017, I went on to winning both road racing and rally national championship in the same year. And that showed me that if I put in the hard work and if I'm able to, set goals as to what I want to achieve, it's possible. And that's pretty much how my journey began. And in 2017, I also signed on to TVS Racing, which is where it became my career, not just my hobby. It started, they started supporting me with my training, my racing. I had a mentor or, we could put a plan in place. And yeah, that's pretty much how my journey into motorsports as a career has started.
I just asked you about, you being the only woman on the grid where there were all men. How different was it for you? Was it awkward? And how did you adjust to the whole thing? Did you ever feel like you were being left out? Tell me about that.
Well, I mean, I think racing is not about the gender as opposed to, once the helmet goes on, it's about the skill and how good you are at what you do. And as a woman, I think the only space that we lack at is probably the skill as well as the physical ability to be able to, the strength and endurance and things like this. So for me, ever since I started training, I was never training with women or anything. So I used to love the thrill of being able to race with the best, And once the helmet went on, it was just me, my skill, my motorcycle, and the track ahead. So even while I was training, my coach never differentiated me as a girl. They made me do every single thing that they would make a guy do. And even when I was racing with the guys, it was exhilarating, to be able to start probably 39th, 38th on the grid and finish 20th in the pack. It was amazing. And yes, I mean, over the years, looking at more and more women, or even my participation in the national championship in 2017, when they saw more and more women come in, they brought in a women's series, which definitely did help bring more women from just me being on the grid, just one woman being on the grid to 15 women being on the grid was definitely a huge jump. And for me, all along, it's always been about being able to, even now when we go race outside, we're not doing anything different because we win in the women's category. We race the same course as the men. It's just that in the end, they categorize every based on the cc of the motorcycle, based on like the juniors, there's women's, there's expert, and categories like this. They just categorize us into it. So I think I really enjoy the experience of being able to race. It's not about being able to race with men or women. I think it's about my skill. And I think that's what I'd like to also tell the other women who want to come in. It's not about being able to be the best with the women, but it's about being able to be the best racer.
Well done. Well spoken. Now I've got to ask you, like I said, last time I met you, ruptured pancreas. I think your collarbone had also been fixed at that time.
Yes.
And there have been many more accidents since then. Your wrists were broken last year, was it?
Yes.
How do you get the courage to get back on the bike?
Being in motorsports, or I would say being an athlete is a way of life. It's not something that I just do on track, or it's just not the personality that I am when I'm racing, but it's also something that I learn from into my everyday life. And for me right now, being an athlete is everything. So every time I've had a fall, or even when I began to get into motorsports, is when I had one of my biggest failures of my life. Like failing 12th, especially in a country like ours, is considered a taboo. It's something that people would look down upon. And being able to take that as something positive, to be able to push myself to find something offbeat, was one way. It was a ray of hope. And now from that, accidents was something that were just, I would say, obstacles along my way that I had to tackle. And also the ecosystem that I had around me, the coaches, my family, my friends, everybody was so supportive of, me getting back. So ever since the day that I would meet with an accident, the goal was to be able to be back on the bike as soon as possible, and to recover, to have the, to not give up. And I think that's what being an athlete has brought into my life. It's a way of life. It's really helped me to be who I am.
Now, for all those people who don't understand how grueling the race is, I had a long conversation with you last time, but for all those people who don't understand how grueling one of these rallies are, explain it to them.
All right. So road racing and rally are two different styles of racing. So road racing is like a circuit where it's like a maximum like a 3-kilometer circuit in which we have to do about 7 laps, and whoever crosses the finish line first wins. And this is just the motto of maybe 30 minutes to 35 minutes. Whereas the rallies that I do are more endurance specific. We technically, this is close to like 300-400 kilometers a day. And the biggest rallies that I've done are about 2 days, and we ride about 400 kilometers each day, where you have nobody from the start to the finish apart from the refueling points, and you're technically going as fast as you can in the SS. And all these SS are happening in places like the deserts, the forests, pretty much, all the trails that we go to hike on. These are the kind of places that the races happen on. So it's very physically as well as the motorbike, it's very demanding on both of us. And I think both of us giving our 100% together with the team, being there, being able to fix the bike no matter how, if I break it and I bring it back, my team puts it back together as a brand new bike for the next day. So I think it's a cumulative effort, the bike and the man, to be able to, get the results. So it's a very physically enduring sport.
Okay. Now, what next for Aishwarya Pissay? What is she looking forward to?
My goal is to be at Dakar in a few years. That's what I'm preparing towards. And along the way, I will have a lot more international events that I'm looking at based on the COVID as well as the ongoing changing thing. The calendar is not yet fixed, but I'm looking forward to doing a lot more international events this year and in a few years to be at Dakar.
Okay. Now, family plays a huge role in the choices that we make. For you, it was a difficult choice in the beginning. I'm hoping things are better now. What is it like? Because I know that you really didn't get the kind of support you would have wanted from the family. But has it changed now?
Well, I think the biggest support that I ever got was from my mother, because she was married at a very young age and she never really got to explore life. So when I wanted to do something offbeat, she never stopped me. And I think that's one very big support I did get from her. Sure, financially, they couldn't be of any help, but I think which is what made me more independent and be able to push my boundaries and find ways to do it on my own. And especially with TVS being there for me, I think my performance, as they were seeing my performance and them helping me, really helped me progress in what I want to do. So I think on an overall perspective, I think my family has been there for me as much as they can be. And I think whatever I didn't have is push me to be the best. So, and I think I'm happy where it is right now.
Okay. What is the advice that you'd like to give to young girls who want to possibly get into motorsports?
Well, it's not as fancy as it looks, and it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of sweat, blood, tears, and it's gonna be a rocky road. And if you want to follow a goal in motorsports, set your goal, set a plan, and just keep going towards it. Don't let the naysayers stop you, and you'll achieve your goal.
All right, Aishwarya Pissay, thank you so much for taking the time out. We wish you all the very best. It's a big year coming up for you. Hopefully your wrists are mended. You're, ready to go for your next big rally. So thanks once again for taking the time out.
Thank you, Meha. It was really great talking to you as well.